The destruction of Amonkhet is well documented in the MTG lore, after Nicol Bolas came and razed the city of Naktamun. But did you know that they released artworks of each of the locations in Amonkhet before and after the destructions at the hand of Nicol Bolas? My favorite nod is this Plains from Hour of Devastation, illustrated by Lars Grant West, that has a broken tablet in the foreground depicting two hands and a sun between them, which is a direct nod to the As Foretold image, showing that this is all going according to Nicol Bolas' plan. Merch, like, comment, subscribe. Hello, welcome back to the 14th episode of Back to Basics, a show where I take EDH commanders and try to find the perfect basic lands to fit them. I love seeing someone sit down with some beautiful basic lands. Something I love even more is seeing how well those lands match their commanders. One quick note before we begin. I like to give the artists credit for their artworks, but I may not pronounce their names perfectly. I'll try my best, but please forgive me and correct me if that ever happens. First up, we've got Hamza, Guardian of Arashin from Commander Legends. The thing I noticed right away was the gold wash of the fortress walls around him. From a lore perspective, Hamza doesn't have much backstory besides his plane of origin, which we know is the Abzan clan on Tarkir. So I started there, with this Plains illustrated by Sam Burley that shows the walls of the Abzan battlements in the lower left corner, and also this forest from Khans of Tarkir illustrated by Sam Burley as well that does the same. However, the thing I liked was that this is not the only series of lands that matched this theme. I went and found two other land pairings not from Tarkir that I think match the brightness of his composition while also putting a closer emphasis on those buildings that take up so much space in his artwork. Take a look at this forest illustrated by Titus Lunter from Amonkhet, showing off the bulky structures of Naktamun, and this Plains from the Boros Guild kit that shows off the strength of the Boros legions, while both lands are being sun-washed in that bright gold color that I think matches up perfectly with Hamza. In addition, I also found this Plains illustrated by Jonas Duro that shows off the blocky heavy structure similar to the Abzans, and pairing it with this forest from Amonkhet that shows off one of the lost cities in the jungle that I think both matches and gives a sense of the strong fortified power that fits Hamza's gameplay and style. Continuing along the line of Abzan commanders, we've got Tayam, Luminous Enigma, a very elegant card. The thing that makes this artwork so beautiful is how much the light impacts the relatively dark backgrounds, turning what you would assume to be a dark night into a bright, pale blue color. So I wanted to emphasize the whirling of the lights amidst the dark with these two different land pairings. Take a look at this Plains from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, illustrated by Adam Paquette, this swamp illustrated by Mark Poole from Commander 2017, and this gorgeous forest illustrated by Svetlana Velinov from the Golgari Guild kit. When lined up and presented together, you can really feel the luminescence coming from all of them, especially in that forest, which I think matches both the color and the style perfectly. For another pairing, I just wanted to present more options along those lines, but focus a little bit more on that blue hue that is in Tayam's background. So take a look at this Plains illustrated by Howard Lyon from Throne of Eldraine, this swamp illustrated by Svetlana Velinov from Throne of Eldraine as well, and this forest from Ikoria illustrated by Jesper Ising. Emphasizing the hues of the light blue in all of the backgrounds alongside the bright bulbs of light creates a pretty synergistic land base for Tayam's artwork in my opinion, and just matches really well overall. For Commander number 3, we have one that ended up being quite simple. It's Rynin Seri, Inseparable, the cat and dog based commander in red, green, and white. Like my video on Arabo a while ago, the deck that this commander encourages is that the player play dogs and cats together in their decks. And so that put me down a pretty simple line of thinking, starting with this Plains from Jumpstart, illustrated by Johannes Voss, and this forest illustrated by Elena Danner, also from Jumpstart. However, when searching for the mountain, I was unable to find one that had a cat or a dog on it, so I had to go back to its artwork for inspiration, and I noticed two things. One, that the background is covered with snowy peaks all across, and two, that there was no emphasis of red in the artwork at all. So that led me to find a mountain art that had as little red as possible and showing snow. So take a look at this snow-covered mountain from Kaldheim, illustrated by Young Park, that shows off the snowy background, low red focus, and matches the background of Rynin Seri as well. Fourth on the list, we've got Klauth, Unrivaled Ancient, from Adventures in the Forgotten Realm commander decks. I love this artwork. His shape and his motion as he flies is very dynamic, and conveys the traditional Dungeons & Dragons aesthetic that I've grown to love. But one thing that I noticed was that there is absolutely no emphasis on green in the painting at all, the hue of the image being dominated by the multiple red tones that Klauth has in his frame. So when I discovered that, the goal then became to find forest artworks that didn't have green in them, while also emphasizing the red in the mountain artworks. And I think I found some super high contrast ones here. Take a look at this mountain, illustrated by Alexi Bricklot from Planechase, and this forest, also illustrated by Alexi Bricklot from Planechase as well. I think there was a lot of potential in this pairing, simulating the world being lit on fire in Cloud's wake, and it radiates an intensity that most Dragon commanders like to display in game. However, if you wanted to tone down the intensity and match the brighter pink tones that are in the background of Clouth, then take a look at this forest from Theros, illustrated by Adam Paquette, and this mountain from Jumpstart, illustrated by Jonas DeRoe. I liked this pairing, especially in the mountain, which has the silhouette of Clouth as well as the lighter pink tones that he has in his background. And for a third option, I went even further down his color orientation, with this forest from Commander Anthology, illustrated by Young Park, and this mountain illustrated by John Avon from the Dual Decks Heroes vs. Monsters, that has the pinks and a pair of dragon-like shapes in its background to match. And finally, we've got a wild one. It's Veyran, Voice of Duality, from the Strixhaven Commander decks. Veyran is uniquely vivid and high energy in comparison to other Izzet commanders, with the whirling of water and fire together along with the contrasting blues and oranges so closely juxtaposed makes it seem like the scene is buzzing with excitement. So when looking for basics, I wanted to have them be as blue or as red as possible, while also having moving elements to match. So take a look at this island, illustrated by Tianhua X from Zendikar Rising, and this mountain illustrated by Sam Burley from Zendikar Rising as well. The use of the Dutch angle that characterizes Zendikar artworks helps greatly here, because the slant really helps them make the lands feel in motion, which serves Veyran greatly. But also, I couldn't help but be drawn to another pairing. Take a look at this island, illustrated by Adam Paquette from Adventures in Forgotten Realms, and this mountain illustrated by Titus Lenter from Jumpstart. I love this pairing, because of how the movement in the water in the cyclone as well as the fire encircling the mountain help to give the energy that Veyran gives off in game. But there you have it, 5 more commanders sorted for which basic lands I think match them best. But I want to see what you think. Tell me which commanders you'd like me to try and pick up basic lands for. Comment below and let me know, and have a great day.